Our story begins long before the stage lights, long before the roaring crowd, and long before the viral explosion that rewrote the internet. It begins in a small coastal town in the Philippines, where a young boy named Marco spent his days singing to the ocean waves. His family didn't have much. Some days, the table held only rice, other days, even less. But what they lacked in material things, they made up for in love, grit, and an unshakable belief that their son carried something special inside him. Marco discovered Elvis Presley by accident. One day, while helping his grandfather clean an old wooden chest, he found a dusty cassette tape with the words "The King" scrawled across it. He placed it into a worn-out, nearly broken tape player. The moment Elvis' voice poured out, something inside him awakened. His grandfather looked at him and said, "If you can feel it, you can sing it." And from that day forward, Marco sang Elvis everywhere, at school events, along the streets, in the market, on fishing boats, anywhere someone would listen. His voice matured quickly, and with each passing year, the tone deepened, the timbre sharpened, the control strengthened. Soon, people in surrounding towns began calling him the Filipino Elvis. But Marco's family struggled more than ever. Typhoons damaged their home twice. His father lost his boat during a storm. And as bills piled, Marco began performing in bus stations and small local gatherings to help contribute a few extra pesos. Then came the moment that changed his life. A charity worker visiting the Philippines filmed Marco singing "Can't Help Falling in Love" on a cracked microphone. The video captured not only his voice, but his soul. With shaky hands, the charity worker uploaded it to social media. Within 24 hours, it hit 1 million views. Within 48, it hit 5 million. Celebrities began sharing it. Reaction channels exploded. People everywhere asked, "Who is this boy?" And more importantly, why isn't he on a global stage? One of those views came from a casting assistant from America's Got Talent. She reached out to Marco's family, and just like that, the impossible became possible. Fast forward to Los Angeles. The bright California sun shined down on Marco as he walked toward the AGT studio wearing his simplest shirt, jeans slightly faded, and a pair of shoes his father polished until they looked new. For the first time in his life, he saw towering cameras, giant crowds, and posters of past champions. He whispered under his breath, "I hope I'm enough." Backstage, the crew noticed him immediately. His humble smile, shy demeanor, and wide, sparkling eyes caught everyone's attention. A producer knelt down and asked, "Are you nervous?" Marco nodded. The producer smiled and put a hand over his shoulder. "Don't worry. Just be yourself. The world's about to meet you." When the moment arrived, Marco stepped out onto the AGT stage. The crowd grew quiet. The judges, Simon Cowell, Howie Mandel, Heidi Klum, and Sofia Vergara, looked at the small boy with the large guitar. Simon leaned forward before asking with his familiar seriousness, "Hello young man, what's your name?" Marco swallowed hard before answering. "My name is Marco. I'm from the Philippines." Simon raised his eyebrows. "And what will you be doing for us today?" Marco took a deep breath. "I will sing. And I want to honor Elvis Presley. He inspired me when I had nothing else." The audience murmured. Some smiled. Some giggled softly and clapped with encouragement. Simon smirked slightly, the kind of smirk that said he'd heard hundreds of Elvis impersonators in his lifetime. But there was something about Marco, something in his eyes, that made him sit up a little straighter. Heidi asked, "How old are you?" I'm 14. The audience reacted with surprise. 14. With that voice he had online. But they didn't know what was coming. Nobody did. The backing track didn't start. Marco strummed the guitar himself. A soft, delicate touch echoing through the massive theater. The lights dimmed, focusing directly on his face. For a brief second, the world stood still. Then he opened his mouth. The first note, rich, deep, shockingly mature, rolled across the room like thunder. It wasn't an imitation. It wasn't forced. It was pure, natural, mesmerizing. A teenage boy with a voice full of pain, warmth, history, and heart. The sound was so unreal that Simon's face shifted instantly. His mouth parted. His eyes widened. He looked at the other judges as if asking silently, "Are you hearing this?" Howie lifted his hand to his mouth. Heidi's jaw dropped. Sophia leaned forward, whispering something in Spanish under her breath. And the audience, they gasped in perfect unison. When Marco hit the first chorus, powerful, effortless, soaring, the entire theater erupted. People stood, people shouted, people cried, but Marco didn't break character. He stayed focused, channeling Elvis, channeling his grandfather's words, channeling every hardship, every sleepless night, every moment he wondered if he was enough. As the final note approached, the lights intensified behind him, casting an almost divine glow around his silhouette. He held the note longer than anyone expected, strong, clear, unwavering. When he finished, the theater exploded. The judges stood immediately, Howie clapping above his head, Heidi smiling so wide her cheeks lifted her eyes, Sophia shouting bravo. Bravo, multiple times. But Simon did something different. He didn't stand right away. He remained seated, staring at Marco as though he'd just witnessed something supernatural. Then, slowly, he leaned into his microphone and said the words that echoed across the world within hours. "This can't be real." The crowd's cheering grew even louder. He stood up, shook his head in disbelief, and repeated, "This can't be real." Simon rarely reacted like that. He had heard thousands of voices, thousands of performances. But something about Marco defied logic, talent, age, everything. He walked toward the center of the judges' table. The audience knew what was coming. Marco did not. Simon's voice softened as he said, "Marco, I have been doing this show for a very, very long time. I have seen talented kids, incredible singers, amazing performers, but what you just did was something I've never heard from someone your age. Your voice, your soul, your presence, it doesn't make sense. And I mean that in the best possible way. It felt like the spirit of Elvis himself touched the stage tonight." The crowd roared again. Marco stood shaking, tears building in his eyes. He covered his mouth, trying not to cry. Simon then looked at the golden buzzer, silently at first, then with a slow, purposeful movement. The crowd saw it. The judges saw it. Marco's heart nearly stopped. Simon extended his hand, and slammed it. The golden buzzer detonated above Marco like a star exploding. Golden confetti showered the stage. Marco fell to his knees, overwhelmed, crying uncontrollably as the audience screamed with overwhelming joy. His mother ran from backstage, hugging him tightly. Simon walked up the stage and placed both hands on Marco's shoulders. "You deserve this," he said. "The world needs to hear your voice." That night, Marco became the #1 trending topic worldwide. His audition video crossed 10 million views in 6 hours. Celebrities tweeted about him. Music legends praised him. Reaction videos poured in. People began calling him the reincarnation of Elvis. Others called him the boy who broke Simon. Some simply called him the miracle from the Philippines. But for Marco, none of that mattered more than the phone call he made to his grandfather back home. "Lolo," he whispered through tears, "I did it." His grandfather, holding back his own tears, replied, "No, Apo, you were born to do it." The next day, news outlets around the world covered the story. Headlines read, "Filipino teen stuns AGT, Simon Cowell says, 'This can't be real,' and Filipino Elvis earns Golden Buzzer in historic audition." Backstage interviews revealed even more of Marco's personality: humble, kind, grateful. He thanked his parents, his community, and his country. When asked what he wanted to do with his life now, Marco smiled softly and said, "I want to lift my family out of poverty. And I want to show other Filipino kids that dreams can survive even the hardest storms." His story wasn't just an audition. It was hope. It was inspiration. It was the kind of moment that reminded the world why talent shows matter. Because somewhere on the other side of the planet, in a small village with nothing but hope, a boy with a gift can rise to the global stage and change everything. In the following episodes, Marco continued to amaze. Each performance raised the bar higher, blending Elvis' timeless charm with his own youthful magic. Judges kept saying variations of the same thing. "It still doesn't feel real. This kid is something else. He was born for greatness." But no moment, no performance, no future success could quite match the electricity of that first audition. The moment when Simon Cowell, the world's toughest critic, looked at a Filipino teenager and said the words that captured the awe of millions. "This can't be real." And yet, it was. This is the story of the Filipino Elvis who broke barriers, broke expectations, broke the internet, and touched the heart of the world. Thank you for watching. If this incredible journey moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who needs hope today. Because sometimes, the right voice at the right time can change everything. And remember, this is just the beginning.